A surprising move could be on the horizon for Atlanta, and it's not what most fans expected. After weeks of frustration and mounting questions, a quiet tryout session might have just revealed a major shift in strategy. What does this mean for the current roster? Why are familiar faces being overlooked while unexpected names get a second chance? And is this a sign of desperation or a calculated step toward fixing what's been broken? Buckle up, because things are about to get interesting. But first, make sure to click the like button and if possible comment, "Rise up." Jalen Reagor, former first-round pick and once considered a future star in the NFL, might just get another shot at redemption, this time in Atlanta. The Falcons recently hosted tryouts for several wide receivers, including Reagor, KJ Hamler, and Julian Hicks. While Hamler and Hicks come with minimal expectations, essentially unknown quantities at this point, the buzz is clearly centered around Reagor. Despite his underwhelming career thus far, there's no denying that he's the most talented of the trio. Atlanta's wide receiver core is thin, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that the front office is searching for another weapon for Michael Penix Jr. to throw to. Reagor's NFL journey has been a bumpy ride. Drafted 21st overall by the Philadelphia Eagles in 2020, expectations were sky high. Instead, what followed was a frustrating series of underperformances, with only 86 receptions, a little over 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns across 5 seasons. His most recent stint came in 2024 with the Los Angeles Chargers, a tenure that didn't spark much confidence either. Still, there's something about his speed, the ability to stretch the field, that keeps teams interested. Unfortunately, his hands are suspect, and his tendency to drop passes has been a recurring problem. That said, for a Falcons team desperate for receiving help, even a flawed receiver with upside might be better than what they currently have. Which brings us to the practice squad. What in the world is going on with Nick Nash, Chris Blair, and Dylan Drummond? These three have been sitting idle, while Atlanta scans the waiver wire and free agents for potential solutions. Nash, a college football standout from San Jose State, showed plenty of potential. Drummond had a solid preseason. Chris Blair arguably had the most impressive camp and preseason performance. Yet none of them have been elevated. Instead, they've been collecting dust while the coaching staff explores outside options. Why not give them a shot? Are they really not ready, or is it that Raheem Morris and offensive coordinator Zach Robinson are failing to see what they have right in front of them? The frustration is growing. Fans are questioning the decision-making from the coaching staff, and for good reason. When internal talent continues to get overlooked in favor of players who have already failed to impress elsewhere, you have to ask, what's the plan? Raheem and Zach have had enough time to assess what's working and what isn't, and if elevating someone like Chris Blair doesn't happen soon, it might speak volumes about how disconnected this staff is from the pulse of the roster. On a brighter note, Divine Diablo could return as early as next week against the New Orleans Saints. Not this week versus the Carolina Panthers, but the following game. And that's great news, because Diablo has been arguably Atlanta's best free agent pickup this season. With 24 tackles, a tackle for loss, an elite 86 PFF grade, and a 78.6 in coverage, he's been nothing short of fantastic. He's played like a top 10 inside linebacker, communicating like a true leader, surveying the field like a seasoned vet, and anchoring the middle with force and poise. Then came the injury, and the drop-off. J.D. Bertrand filled in, and despite a highlight fourth down stop against the Colts, it's been rough. Bertrand has struggled in coverage, lacks speed, and seems overwhelmed. He simply doesn't look NFL ready, not as a starting linebacker. If and when Troy Anderson returns, pairing him with Diablo and moving Caden Ellis into more of a pass-rushing role could completely change the dynamic of this defense. A trio of Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., and Ellis could become one of the most aggressive edge-rushing combinations in the league. This group has shown signs of explosive potential, and if healthy, they could wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks down the stretch. Speaking of wreaking havoc, Sunday's game against Carolina has the potential to serve as a turning point, or at the very least, a palate cleanser. Let's not forget that the Falcons were embarrassed 30-0 by this same Panthers team earlier in the year. That's not something you just brush off. Now it's time for redemption. Despite Carolina's inconsistency, like beating the Packers but then falling apart against the Saints, they've shown they can punch back when underestimated. And with Bryce Young struggling mightily, Atlanta should be able to load the box and focus on stopping the Panthers' run game, which has been solid thanks to Rico Dowdle. Still, let's be real. Even if the Falcons come away with a win, it won't fix what's broken. The fan base has largely lost faith in the coaching staff, and the idea of a playoff push feels more like a fantasy than a possibility. Poor clock management, weak adjustments, and a general sense of disorganization have plagued this team for weeks. The loss to the Dolphins, one of the worst teams in the league this season, was a low point. Since then, many fans have shifted focus from wins and losses to evaluating the future. And that future is centered around three things: the continued rise of the pass rush, the development of the rookies, and the growth of quarterback Michael Penix Jr. defensively. Jalen Walker, James Pierce Jr., Leonard Floyd, David Onyemata, and Zach Harrison have created one of the most exciting young units in the NFL. Jeff Ulbrich even called their latest practice the best of the season. That kind of energy and performance will be critical down the stretch. But what's your take, Falcons fans? Should Atlanta sign Jalen Reagor or finally give their practice squad receivers a real shot on the field? And while the debate over whether to sign Jalen Reagor or elevate in-house talent rages on, there's an even bigger spotlight resting squarely on the shoulders of Michael Penix Jr. The rookie quarterback is under the microscope, and rightfully so. As the face of the franchise moving forward, everything he does, every throw, every read, every audible, is being analyzed. From a clean pocket, Penix has shown flashes of brilliance. The arm talent is absolutely there. He can rifle passes into tight windows, change arm angles, and deliver the ball with impressive velocity. But when defenses bring pressure, it's a different story. He has to improve against the blitz dramatically. That's been his Achilles heel so far. And then there's the head-scratching moment from Raheem Morris. Instead of focusing on helping his young quarterback adapt to the speed and complexity of the NFL, Morris decided it was time to lecture Penix about his emotions. Seriously. He told him that you can't have regular relationships and expect to do extraordinary things. What does that even mean? What does a quarterback's emotional drive have to do with personal relationships? Penix is fiery, competitive, and wants to win. That's what you want in your quarterback. If anything, it's Raheem who should be showing more fire. The lack of urgency and energy on the sideline starts with him. Maybe instead of trying to mellow out Penix, Morris should channel some of that fire into the locker room and get his team playing with purpose. This team is at a crossroads. The playoffs might be slipping out of reach, but that doesn't mean the season is lost. Falcons fans now turn their attention to the young talent, the future building blocks. Watching this defense continue to grow, seeing Penix develop under center, those are the storylines that matter now. Make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and click the video on screen for more updates. All the latest Falcons news, right here first. Go Falcons!